All right. Hello. It's nice to see you, Julia. How are you
Hello.
today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. So, we were chatting just a few minutes ago. And like I said, if you just want to talk about a synopsis of each of your books, whatever you want to tell us about the main character, how many books are in the series, whatever you would like to share. If you have books to share, covers, we like to see covers, especially cozy mystery covers.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me on, and how neat to have this connection between Chicago and Florida. You should never ask an author to say whatever they want, because then, of course, they'll talk forever. But so I have 3 series with Berkeley, and one of them is the Writer's Apprentice series. That's the longest one. There are 5 books in that one. The first book was A Dark and Stormy Murder, which I know your group discussed recently.
Yeah.
I feel so sad that I didn't make that. So this is the second one in the series, Death in Dark Blue.
There you go, right there. I know
And the premise of that series is that a young woman who has always been fascinated with a writer named Camilla Graham, who writes romantic suspense novels, which was a really big deal. Like in the mid 20th century, those were the big bestsellers, at least that I read. So she's kind of Camilla is sort of like Mary Stuart was for me. So this is my wish fulfillment novel. So Lena London has this series of serendipitous events that allow her to live and work with Camilla Graham, this writer that she's always kind of worshipped. And they write suspense together and mystery, but then they also stumble across a dead body. And that's in book 1. They solve that mystery together, but there's an overarching mystery about a missing woman, and that lasts for 3 books. So that one's fun in a suspenseful kind of way. It has a lot of Gothic touches because I love the old Gothic tales like Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights and things like that. The second series is called the Undercover Dish mysteries, which you said that you read, and those are a little bit more whimsical and fun, and they are about a young woman who's a very good chef and is good at whipping up things like casseroles that she just makes up herself. And so the people in her community kind of learn that she has this talent, and she has this sort of business on the lowdown in which she will make her wonderful dishes, but then secretly pass them to these people and let them pass them off as their own concoctions. So she makes some pretty good money that way. And in the first book, she routinely makes chili for a woman named Perpetua Grandi, who is from her parish. And on the evening that the book begins, or a couple evenings later, Pet's chili is poisoned, and Lila has to make the decision about whether to tell the police that she's the one who actually made it, or whether she can keep Pet's secret while still trying to figure out what happened. So it's kind of a silly premise, but it's a fun book, and I had fun creating. It disappeared from me. There we go.
Oh.
And then the last series, the most recent one I've worked on, was a tribute to my family heritage. My dad is Hungarian, and so I created the Hungarian Tea House series. And that one takes place, they all take place in the Midwest because I'm a Midwestern girl. So this is in the fictional Riverwood, Illinois, and Hannah Keller and her family run a tea house with Hungarian touches, and she has a grandmother who has actual psychic ability, but this was not something that Hannah ever knew. She thought her grandmother read tea leaves at the events simply because it was for show. It was some nice drama to entertain the customers. And then as the book progresses, we find not only has there been a murder, but that her grandmother has genuine insights. So by the second book, which is called Death of a Wandering Wolf, that's this one.
There you go.
There we go.
Covers are amazing.
I do really like this one. In that book, the the psychic subplot is expanded a bit and has more bearing on the plot. And so those are my 3. I'm currently writing a 4th series that is going to be published not under my name, but under a pseudonym. So be looking for the name Veronica Bond.
Veronica Bond.
And you can actually see it on Amazon already. The book is called Death in Castle Dark. And it does take place in a castle. So it has a lot of great spooky Gothic elements.
Ooh.
I wanted to create something for the Writer's Apprentice fans, because a lot of them were sad when the series got discontinued, as was I. But so I thought, okay, I'll try something else kind of in a similar suspenseful vein. So that series will take place in a castle. The premise is that a young actress from Chicago is hired on to the cast of a murder mystery weekend troupe.
Oh my gosh, this is right up my alley.
Oh, okay. So they perform murder mystery presentations, and then the people who come to the castle have to figure out who actually committed the murder. But of course, in the first book, there is a murder at the murder. So she becomes embroiled in a real murder when she was just trying to have an acting gig. So that one's pretty fun. I'm working on book 2.
That is awesome. That sounds like it's right up my alley. So I have to ask. Well, let me say hi to. Lady Love said hi, Jessica.
Hello.
She says hello.
Hi, nice to see you.
Vivian, hello, Vivian. It's nice to see you. Good morning, Leanna. She says hello.
Wow.
She says how exciting. I think she's talking about your brand new series that you were just talking about.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And they just sent me 3 voice actors and told me to pick one to do the audiobook. So that was very exciting.
That is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. So that's what I was going to ask you. So the name, is it just any significance or just?
I had some input from my agent about what they were looking for, but the name Veronica was my grandmother's middle name.
Okay.
And so I thought I would pay tribute. I'm big into family tributes. So
awesome.
In fact, in the Hungarian tea house, Hana, the main character, is called Haniska by her family. And I grew up being called Juliska because I am, that was my Hungarian grandma who always called me Juliska. I don't think she ever called me Julia.
Gotcha. Oop. It does sound amazing, Jessica. I mean, it really sounds up my alley. I'm a huge theater buff, and I love like dinner theater. I love Broadway shows. I mean, like I am a big musical buff, the whole bit. So that sounds, and the castle part, I mean, who doesn't like a good castle?
Right. It makes a super great backdrop for mystery. Yeah. And I'm just having fun thinking up little touches. The twist on these mysteries is that normally if you take part in a murder mystery dinner or something, which I'm sure lots of people have done, you all take on roles and you say like, oh, I'm Mrs. Crabtree or, whatever it might be. Yeah. But in this book, the actors play the roles and the people coming to the dinner become the detectives.
Okay.
So they're all told, you're the detective, you're the inspector, we are the potential murderers. So it's that makes it easier, for them to write the different scripts and to perform and practice the different mysteries that there's this man who owns the castle who writes all the murder mysteries, and he's this kind of fascinating character that I'm still getting to know. But
it sounds wonderful.
Thanks. I'm very excited. That one comes out in, I think, the end of August.
Oh, okay.
So not too far away.
And
it has a fun cover.
Is there a website set up under the name Veronica Bond?
There's like a mini one. It's a blog, and I think the address is just Veronica Bond.
Okay. I only asked because I attached your website to the description, and that way somebody can always go to your website. But if you don't have that listed, I would add that other link for them to find the new book too.
Right. There is like a little mini blog. It's mostly stuff about castles.
Cool.
And I think it's veronicabond.blogspot.com. But
Okay.
Veronica Bond also has a Facebook page.
Okay. Okay.
So people can peek at that too. But I don't know how much back and forth I'll be doing between my two identities.
Yeah, that's a lot to. I think I wouldn't be able to keep them straight.
Well, it's just the, like, I mean, I'm not super great at doing promotion because the fun part for me is the writing, and I'm terrible at blowing my own horn. So if I post one thing that says, "Hey, read my book," then I don't want to do it again for 2 weeks, So I think some writers do that much better than I do. But so maybe Veronica will be bolder that way. I don't know.
Yeah, take on a
she
whole
has
new
her
life.
own personality.
Yeah. She gets her own persona. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that new one sounds really good. And I mean, and I think I mentioned to you, like, I really wish the Undercover series would have gone more too.
Oh, I have good news about that. So, I mean, they're not continuing the series, but I did finally get permission to self-publish a 4th book.
Oh,
so, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through the book. So I do intend to finish it this summer and then to publish it. So it's called A Fatal Fettuccine. And that will be Undercover Dish number 4. So I'm not promoting it yet because I'm still writing the book, but yeah, I'm pretty far into it now and I know where it's going. So I just have to, I'm teaching and we're just finishing up the school year at my high school. So I already have it on my calendar, like start really in depth on this book. I have a cover designer who's already ready to go. Who's in Scotland. So it's really fun because I write to him and say, okay, I'm going to have a cover for you in a little while. So, and he's like, I'm ready whenever you want to send it out. Although he probably says that in a Scottish accent.
Which is the best.
Yeah.
That is so exciting. Yes. A 4th Undercover Dish. Oh my gosh. I'm really, really excited about that.
But I think about Lila and Jay all the time.
I was talking about, wouldn't it? So, she's a cozy mystery book blogger. She's very big, and she's one of my favorite book bloggers. Drew's Book Musings.
Oh, Drew, yeah.
She does that, where instead of interviewing the author, she interviews the character, and that is one of my that's one of the reasons I love that, and the day in the life, I love that too. But the thing I was like, she should do a Where Are They Now? For series
that would be fun, yeah.
For series that have ended, so that because I think about characters from time to time. I'm like, what is happening with Lila? Like, where is she?
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I mean, I just have so much fun writing that series and the dialogue between the characters. I really fell in love with Serafina and Cam, in their relationship. And I loved turning Jay from, kind of like this stern introvert into someone who's to his relationship with Lila and just all her cast of characters I just came to love. And of course Mick. I loved Mick the dog so much that I ended up getting a Labrador because I was like, I need my own Mick. And so now I have Digby. And Digby also inspired the dog who lives in Castle Dark. His name is Hamlet.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
He's based significantly upon my giant black Labrador.
Oh, that is awesome. And that is, for me, the best thing about cozies too are the characters. The mystery is always going to be there, and I enjoy the mystery, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of second wind to me. I really need the relationships and the town, the things going on in the town, and the characters and all that stuff. Partly because I never solved the mystery, so I've just kind of but yeah, I'm very much a character-driven reader. So I'm like, man, that would be really fun to see like updates on characters of books. But I'm so excited to hear that there's a fourth book.
Yeah.
But recently, well, we read The Writer's Apprentice, and then I read a couple more, but The Hungarian Tea House is so phenomenal. I
Thank
gave
you.
both of those books 5 stars. I loved them. I haven't read the third one yet. It was
You.
so good.
Well, the
And
third one comes out this month, at the end of the month. It's called Death on the Night of Lost Lizards, and it takes place at Christmas time. So there are going to be some nice little Hungarian Christmas traditions, and some things, some plot things that happened in book 2 with Eric Wolf's sisters. The women who run Ulveflok. They that plot line will be continued in kind of an interesting way, I think. That's another example of characters. So initially, I knew that Eric had siblings, but in book 1, I didn't even know who his siblings were. I just knew, okay, he's got a family somewhere. But then in book 2, I had to flesh that out, and I thought, okay, he's got a few siblings probably. And then when I was writing the scene where he and Hannah are trying to get to know each other, and Hannah is saying, "You don't tell me enough," and I thought, okay, I need to really flesh out his family here. And it was kind of at that point that his sisters were born, because I thought, okay, he has sisters, but what if they were, identical twins? And then that ends up being a little surprise later in the book. So, I'm often surprised by the details as much as readers are, because I say, ooh, I just had an idea. And then, because I usually send Berkeley an outline of what the book will be, and then I proceed to not follow that outline at all. Because sometimes I have really good ideas, and I think, oh, no, I'm going to change that part of the outline now that they're twins, I want to go in this direction. So yeah, that's what makes writing fun, though, for me.
Absolutely. And I think that readers can tell when, when writers kind of let the story just flow how it will.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it feels like it flows better in the reading style of the
Right.
book. But the Hungarian Tea House, what I really love is all of the Hungarian kind of culture and customs and all that. I really, really enjoy it. It is amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so great to hear, because it's not as popular as the other 2 series. So I'm like, come on, give it a chance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hello, Kay. Kay is my mother-in-law. She is awesome.
Oh, hi.
So everybody be nice. Don't say anything. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I say it every time. Vivian, I agree. The tie-in with the family is really awesome. Cozy reads mystery. Hello, Cozy. Cozy reads only cozy mysteries, and she's read 600 and some cozy mysteries. It's mind-blowing. It really is quite impressive. Jessica, good question.
What's the question?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Would you consider self-publishing the Writer's Apprentice series?
Oh, absolutely. But you can only do it after the publisher gives up the rights to the series. So right now they still have the rights to Writer's Apprentice. That's why I got permission from the publisher to write a little short story for Christmas. So, they said, sure, that being novel while we're trying to sell these first 5 novels. So there is a little short story that kind of takes up where the last one left off. It's set at Christmas time. It's just kind of fun revisiting of all the characters, but they do solve a mystery of a missing girl. So in future, yes, I would love to return to those characters, because I love them too. I love Sam and Lena. I love Doug and Belinda. Of course, I love Camilla, who, is just my dream. Camilla's kind of a cross between my own mom and, Mary Stewart, and every older woman that I've ever admired and loved. So she's very dear to me.
Yeah, and I love their relationship. I think I was trying to tell somebody about it, and I think I compared her to think about Nora Roberts, you getting a job writing under Nora Roberts or something like that. But
yeah, and I'm a big Nora Roberts fan too.
Yeah,
I am a romantic at heart. In fact, not even just at heart. I'm obviously a romantic. And that's why all my books tend toward romantic subplots. And some readers have complained and said, I just want to read a mystery. I don't need all this romance, but I do. So I need to get those romantic elements in there.
And it was funny because in the book club, when we were discussing A Dark and Stormy Murder, people were like taking sides about Sam and Doug. And I'm like, I didn't really feel there was that much of a like push and pull. I mean, there was a point where I think Doug kissed her, but I don't want to give anything away, but I'm saying I didn't feel like there needed to be that, as opposed to, some other, books where there's really this big love triangle. But I think that everybody was really invested in that romance, to be honest with you. They were.
Well, and I was too. And initially, actually, speaking of outlines, Lena was supposed to go in one direction with her romance. And actually, my agent had said, it's kind of a typical pattern. I won't give a spoiler either, but she said, if she goes one way, it's a pretty typical cozy mystery pattern.
Well,
and but if she goes the other way, it's a little bit more unexpected. And so, he was supposed to be the choice initially, but then he ended up not being. And I'm really happy that she gave me that advice. I've even had colleagues at work tell me, well, I'm Team Doug, or I'm Team Sam. And I think, oh, wow. But one of my college friends said, well, it's pretty obvious all the way through who Lena is attracted to. And I thought, I thought so too.
Me too. I didn't feel like there was as much. I mean, maybe on the other end of things, there was more interest, but I didn't feel like there was ever this like question on Lena's end from that perspective. I agree. I never thought that.
And actually, one of the scenes with her having lunch with one of those gentlemen, and it's kind of loosely inspired by a great scene in the novel Rebecca. I don't know if you've ever read Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. When you've got to read it. It's so good. Everyone listening, read Rebecca. It's an old Gothic classic about a young ingenue who's only about 20 years old, and she falls in love with this much older man. He's probably about 40, who is very paternal, but like that was the Gothic style, that the man was very domineering and stuff. But it's still like this sweeping love story, and she falls in love with him. And they're at this club in Monte Carlo. She's not there as a rich woman. She's there as a rich woman's secretary. And that's how she meets him. But anyway, they have this one lunch scene because her boss can't make it. She doesn't feel good. So she's sitting alone at a table, and he comes and joins her. And I thought, okay, that's kind of what's going to happen in my book too. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Cozy said a fourth Undercover Dish book. Yay! Me too. I know. I'm that made me very, very happy.
Yeah, I can even tell you a little tidbit.
Please.
So in the fourth one, it is summer, and Lila and Jay have been together for a while, so their relationship is going much better. Jay has even made friends with Angelo since book 3. So jealous, but then ultimately he and Angelo, have agreed that Jay loves Lila and Angelo is Lila's friend. Well, in book 4, Angelo actually confesses that he is in love with someone, but that if you all recall, any of you Undercover Dish fans may recall that Angelo once cheated on Lila. The woman he cheated with is the woman he's in love with. Oh. And so he confides that to Lila in book 4. And so she's trying to think of ways she can help him win this woman back. So that's kind of a subplot that ends up affecting the main plot. The main plot is that Lila sees at the beginning of the book that there's been some vandalism at Pine Haven University. And later she learns through Serafina that one of Serafina's most admired colleagues, this brilliant professor, is writing a book about an Italian murderer known as the Lake Killer, who has never been caught. And the man researching the Lake Killer has decided that he thinks that murderer is hiding in Pine Haven for reasons that will later be explained.
Oh.
So Jay wants to help him solve this case so that he can finish his book and so that they can get rid of this murderer. So.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It'll be interesting to see a dynamic with Angelo and where he's getting along with Jay. I mean, yeah that's interesting.
Well, and I love Angelo because I make him a source of humor in the book.
Yes.
And there's a lot in this book that brings out Angelo's, funny side. So
that's awesome. Jane Ann Gross.
Hi, Jane Ann. Jane Ann used to be my neighbor in my condo.
That's awesome. Well, she says, hello, Julia.
Hello. How are you?
That's awesome. She's my neighbor.
Yeah, well, 25 years ago.
Oh, wow.
She was my neighbor in my condo. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
We were young together.
Cozy said, has the Writer Apprentice series finished? Yes.
Yes. Until I get the rights back, and then maybe might have the option of self-publishing a 6th book. I know some people expressed, this would be a spoiler again. Some people expressed dismay that there wasn't a wedding before the series ended. So someday I would like to write the wedding. In fact, I even had an idea. In fact, the Castle Dark murder mystery thing kind of stemmed from that, because I was going to have Lena and Camilla be at a murder mystery weekend. So now I would have to change that, but.
That's awesome. Is there a certain amount of time that the publisher holds books, or is it just whenever they decide? How does that work?
I'm not totally sure, but I assume it's based on like sales level,
okay.
If they just start barely selling it all, then they'll say, okay, you can have your rights back. But I assume if they're still making a little money from them, then they're going to retain those rights.
Well, that just seems.
So, yeah, but I'll keep churning things out in the meantime, and hopefully people will read them. So
that's what I was thinking of. So, I mean, you've written a fairly good amount of books, and you still work full-time as a teacher.
I do.
Holy moly. That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, it has presented its challenges, but luckily I do have the summers off, and I do a lot of writing in the summer. And, on days when the grading's not too heavy or whatever, I can try and get a chapter done in the evening. But it has been like 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Like full-time jobs, probably. So, and you teach high school, I'm assuming English?
I do, yes.
I mean, I was taking a stab. If you would have said math, I think that would have been hysterical, but I was going on a limb and say English. Do any of your students read your books?
I never really talk about the books in class because I don't want to be like, hey, buy my book. But some students have approached me. I know our librarian has the books in the library, so sometimes and say, oh, I read it and I really liked it. I have some parents who read the books, so that's kind of interesting. But also my students, it's so helpful. I'm not a 20-something like my characters are, and sometimes I even have teenage characters. So it helps every day to hear the way my students talk so that I can try to keep like that freshness in the dialogue. And my sons, they're both 20-somethings, and so they can give me insights into how young people talk. In fact, in Death in Castle Dark, I guess I'm obsessed with twins because the main character has twin brothers.
Okay.
And they are kind of comic relief. But my son had to proofread the book for me just recently. And he was reading it, and I said, did you like the characters of Luke and Jay? And he said, yeah, Mom, I like the characters of me and my brother. just me stealing their personalities and putting them in the book, but
that's funny. Yeah. Well, I think it'd be awesome to be written in a book, but I want to be written in as the victim. Like I want somebody to murder me off.
And then they find out all your terrible secrets after your murder.
Yeah, I'm gone.
All the family skeletons.
Yeah, I'm gone. Let my husband deal with it. No kidding. I recommended A Dark and Stormy Murder as our first. Yes. So Cozy hosts the Killing Time with Cozy's book club with me.
Oh, yes.
And
I follow you on Twitter, I think.
Yeah,
Twitter?
probably. Yeah. So we go, she picks a book and then I pick a book and then we do a month. Next month, we're doing a subscriber pick month where everybody who, wants to can throw a book in the hat. We're going to draw.
Okay.
And she picked A Dark and Stormy Murder and it was a hit. It was a hit.
Yay, I'm so glad. So glad. Yeah, that was initially I was doing the Undercover Dish series and I told my agent I would like to write another one at the same time. Full disclosure, it's because I had kids in college. And so she said, yeah, okay, we can talk about that. Why don't you run some ideas past me? So, she called me and we were sort of batting some ideas back and forth. And she had looked at my website, and this was an old website, but it said, I was fascinated by the romantic suspense of the mid 1900s, of my youth, and that I loved writers like Mary Stewart, Phyllis A. Whitney, Victoria Holt. And you'll notice if you read Writer's Apprentice that I dedicated one of the books to each of them, to 5 great suspense writers. So she said, why don't you do something with that, create some sort of gothic tale. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And so initially it was going to be called Murder at Graham House. And then it was actually the publisher that changed it to Dark and Stormy Murder. And initially, so the character of Sam, here's another little secret for you. He was initially French. And I had made him French. I thought it was kind of like exciting. And his name was Francois Dutoit. And my agent said, I hate that. Like she literally despised him being French and the name and everything. And she was like, just make him American. And then he became Sam. So also probably good advice. I have to say, whenever my agent tells me to change something, it always ends up being a good idea. So she knows her stuff. So
Cozy said, I will definitely reread the first 3 in the Undercover Dish when number 4 comes out. Yeah, I think I will too, because it's definitely been, before I go into the 4th one, I probably want to go back and reread because it's been a while. Somebody has a question. Any tips for writers who want to break into the industry?
Oh, sure. Because I was that writer for a really long time. So I feel for you. And I would tell you that what I learned over trial and error and many years is that if you're looking to get an agent, which is probably the best first step, pretty much a numbers game. So I used to do this thing where I would write something and send it out to an agent. And when I would get that rejection from the agent, I'd be like, well, I'm a terrible writer, that sort of thing. But you can't, first of all, just as you might have chemistry with your friend or with a spouse, you have chemistry with an agent too. And sometimes it's just the wrong agent. You just pick the wrong one and they're not interested in what you write. But you have to assume that if you're interested in what you write, other people in the world will like what you write too. So when I finally started selling, I really worked hard on making the book the best it could be. And of course, that's my advice too. Because there were times, frankly, when I would write a book and send it out, and deep down I knew it wasn't that good. So you have to be honest with yourself and say, do I need to revise this more? Because if you're anything like me, you're just in a hurry to get it out there. Like, oh, I finished a book. I'm just going to send it out. And then someone's going to tell me how great I am, like that sort of thing. And there is that immediacy where you just desire validation right away. But I would say really spend the time. One thing that helped me was I joined a writers group, and we would read each other's books. We were all bound for publication, and we have all since been published. So that was very helpful. Working with my writers group, I really tried to make my book the best it could be. Then I picked a genre, because at first I was writing just sort of vague fiction, and agents kept telling me, I don't know what you want me to do with this. Like, it doesn't fit into any categories. And, an agent needs some hook to sell it on. So you have to help them out with that and, pick something that sells. That's why I started with a culinary mystery, because I had seen that they sold very well. And I thought, well, oh my gosh, I could write a culinary mystery. So once I wrote that, and interestingly, it was a Hungarian culinary mystery that I wrote first. It was called Death in a Hungarian Kitchen.
Oh.
And I thought, I'm just going to send this to, 75 agents, and in the hopes that maybe somewhere between 1 and 5 people will write back to me. Because if you're out there and trying to write, some agents just don't get back to you. They don't have time. And if they don't want your stuff, they just brush it aside. Other agents will send you a rejection letter, but you can't count on that. So you just have to mass send it out to people that you think would like a cozy mystery. And you can find that out. There are all sorts of agent websites. One of them is agentquery.com. And if you go on there, it lists all these agencies and what they're looking for, and you can kind of keep track of who you've sent it to. So that can be very helpful. So I did get exactly what I was looking for. I ended up with 3 agents who were interested in the Hungarian culinary mystery. But then I had the problem of 2 of them said that it was too scary, and the other said that it was too cozy. So then I thought, okay, well, I don't even know, like, what changes would I make? Because then I'll please one and not the other. And plus, I loved the book. I was really proud of it, and I didn't want to change it. So the agent that I currently have now said, I don't think I can sell this book, but I like your writing. Would you consider writing something else for me? And I was like, yes. The answer is yes. So that's how I ended up getting the Undercover Dish contract, because we talked about it, and I wrote the first book, or I wrote the first proposal in 3 chapters. She sent it out, and it sold over the weekend. So,
it's got, the first one particularly, it's got such a funny premise with, like, she's made this chili, and then someone's, because she passes off these dishes. If you don't know, I know that Julia kind of did a roundabout when she first started, but if you come in and you don't know, she like makes these dishes, and you can buy them for your church potluck or your, graduation party or your barbecue, and take it and then present it as your own. You're like, hey, I made this great casserole.
Which I would totally do.
Which is a great premise, right? It's actually a great business idea. But then what happens? Of course, something goes wrong. Somebody dies from eating that dish, and you're like, whoa. Of course, the person that bought it off of her is like, it wasn't me. So it had a really great start of the premise for the first book. It was really great. Yeah, I loved it.
Thanks.
Do you read a lot of cozy mysteries?
It's interesting. So when I was in my 20s, I worked at a Barnes and Noble. I was between teaching jobs. Yeah, it was like loving chocolate and working in a candy factory.
Yeah, I would owe on they hand out paychecks.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, and Tiffany, you owe $75.17.
Yeah. So, and I did get a discount, so I spent way more money than I should have on books. But back then, I read tons of cozy mysteries, and my mom and I used to read them together as well. So, like, the cozy people I read are actually kind of the cozy writers of yore, like people like Dorothy Gilman and Joan Hess and Dorothy Cannell. And they, I loved all of them. Patricia Moyes was another one that I read. So then once I started writing cozy mysteries, I never had time to read, which is so sad. But as you said, having two jobs, it was like I was either teaching or writing. I didn't have a lot of reading time. So now that's opening up for me a little bit again, as Tiffany and I both listen to a lot of audiobooks, so I might delve back in the pool again. I have so many cozy mystery writer friends whose books I would love to read, but I'm also kind of addicted to kind of like the grittier mystery novels, especially the British ones.
Okay.
And over since Christmas, I'd say, I have been cycling through, I just finished the series of several people. One of them is Ellie Griffiths, who writes the Ruth Galloway mysteries. I don't know if anyone reads those, but they're set on the salt marsh in England, and they're really spooky, but they're so good. And they actually have cozy elements because there's a police inspector that she's in love with, and he's very funny. He just cracks me up. So I've read all of those. Then I read Denise Mina. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's a Scottish writer. And so I really got addicted to her Scottish policewoman. It's kind of like police procedurals. And I know she's gotten, stellar reviews. And then I'm currently hooked on the novels of Jane Casey, who is also pretty gritty crime novels, but has a hilarious character as well. So yeah, I'm doing what some readers do with my books, which is I'm just powering through the whole series of each of them, and then I go to somebody new. So
yeah,
I did recently read Jen McKinley though, and I have read Juliet Blackwell, whose writing I like, and Dean James. So there are a few that I've snuck in there.
Yeah. We're discussing a Jen McKinley book tonight, the First in the Library Lovers, but most of us are huge fans of the Cupcake series as well. So is it what did you read something from that or the Hat Box?
I read the one
or the Button Box or something like that.
No, it was I read I think it's a standalone by her called Paris. Paris is Always a Good Idea.
Okay.
That's the one that I read, which was really cute. I think all readers, I am attracted to the word Paris in a title because for Juliet Blackwell, I read her Paris books, but I also read her the ones with the witches. Are they in a clothing shop, a bookshop? I'm trying to remember.
I always there's a witchcraft by her, and then there's a wishcraft.
I think I read the witchcraft.
And I think it takes place in like an antique Victorian clothing store.
Yes, okay, that's the one I read.
There's so many, and it's actually shocking how many cozy mysteries are out there. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like, I only read cozy mysteries, and I read romance, and I don't read much else. I would love to read the grittier novels. They sound entertaining, but I am a scaredy cat. I also love sleep. And I'd be done.
Right.
Yeah. I can't.
Well, and I know during the pandemic, a lot of people said cozy only. It's depressing enough that there's this illness. So I'm only reading cozy.
Yeah. What I absolutely agree. And I think there was an author that I interviewed I don't remember, but it's been within this time period, of course. And they were like, hey, would you want something like the quarantine included? I was like, absolutely not. I don't want to even know it exists in my books.
Right.
No.
Right. We want fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantasy world.
But I still had no idea, even with all the cozies I read, I do a series on my channel called Spotlighting Cozies where I pick a different theme and then I kind of find all the books I can within that and kind of tell people about them in the video. Mm-hmm. And my own TBR is blown out of control with the amount of books that there are. And I think KU has really even made that more substantial because they release a lot of cozy mysteries.
Do you mean Kensington?
Kindle Unlimited. They do like
right.
There's a ton, and Kensington does too. Yeah, they absolutely have a ton in Berkeley, but some of the I don't know if they're indie or self. I don't know how that works, but the book, there's a ton of series on KU that you can only find kind of through there. But there's a bunch. So
great. Yeah. Well, I know that when I'm trying to pitch a new series, and I'll send my agent an email and say, what about this? What if there's a character who does this? And she says, no, it's already been done. And I find that so often, I'll come up with 10 ideas and she'll say, nope, this writer writes that. And this writer writes that. So you can tell that a lot of the really fun ideas have already been mined. And that's why you have to come up with more and more distinct or interesting topics. So I was pretty confident no one else was a Hungarian writer. So
we had this discussion on somebody else's channel about cozies. Is there a single cozy theme that you can think of that's not out there? And I have been saying this for so long, and everybody's rolling their eyes right now that's listening because they all know what I'm going to say. But finally, I think I might have sold somebody on the idea. They said they already had the idea, which is awesome. But I have been waiting for someone to write a traveling carnival or amusement park cozy. That would be so much fun. I would love for somebody to kill me on the Tunnel of Love. Oh my God, that would be amazing.
And you could have a really colorful cast of characters.
Absolutely. And there's so many ways that you can murder somebody in an amusement park or a traveling carnival, either one. Yeah.
That's great.
Absolutely.
You should be a cozy mystery advisor.
That would be amazing. You're making my, yeah. And then somebody else said one that I thought was really interesting. Oh, a caveman cozy.
Wow.
And what that, I think it might've been Cozy that said it. I think Cozy that's here that said it. And I thought, oh my gosh, that would be, because there's so many, it's hard to think of, themes that really
I would not be able to wrap my mind around that dialogue. What would they even say? Or, what language would they be speaking? But
yeah, I don't know. There's just, yeah. Oh, you're right, Jessica. Jessica said it was Denise Swanson. She said that asked about the quarantine thing. Should she include it? She said she wasn't going to include face masks in her work because somebody had asked about it. And I was like, yeah, I don't blame you. I don't want any representation of the quarantine. We all know it exists. I don't need it in the book. Right.
Right. And how can you describe characters if they have masks on? And how can your romantic couple kiss if they have masks on? So
absolutely. That's a fair statement. So when you read kind of your mysteries or you're in your gritty mysteries, whatever you're reading, as far as that, is it hard to fool you since you've written so many yourself?
What a good question. And lately, yes. And sometimes my husband will sit and listen to audiobooks with me and I'll yell out, oh, it's his cousin. And he'll say, why did you say that? I didn't figure that out. And he'll say, well, now I think it because you said it, but I wouldn't have thought of it otherwise. So, and I actually did just have that happen in a book I read where I figured out a connection that I think the author thought she had hidden pretty well. And it was like some religious symbolism was a clue, and I had picked up on all the religious symbols. So I said, oh, okay, I know what happened. This person died while they were baptizing them, or, and it turned out that I was right. So it's kind of disappointing, actually, because when I figure something like that out, I think, oh, I hope I'm not right, because there's still a fourth of the book to go. And then, so yeah, lately it is pretty hard on TV shows too, where I say, oh, well, it's obviously that person. And I think it is true, because if you do enough plotting, then you can see the stuff they're trying to bury, and more obviously. So
yeah. I apparently would make a terrible sleuth because My newest strategy is I just suspect everybody. And I mean everybody down to until you can prove to me otherwise, you're
Right.
suspect. Because then I have to be right at least at some point.
Right. Well, and it is really hard when you're plotting too to try and hide someone in plain sight. Because whenever I put out clues, I think, oh, that's going to be so obvious. But sometimes people say, oh, I never saw it, you know, and I feel like it's just so nakedly out there. But
that's interesting because no, at least for me. But you know, there are some people. Somebody read. Oh, I think it was Jessica that's here. She figured out a murder in a book that like you couldn't even after they revealed it. I was like, really? I was like, you know, and she was like, oh yeah, I know on page 150, and I was like, you're like a guru.
Yeah, I guess it's all about which clues jump out at you, you know, and which ones you kind of gloss over. But
gotcha. I mean, I don't want to brag or anything, but I do usually figure out who the victim is. Just saying, like, yeah, I know. I've gotten really good at it. Just kidding.
And I bet you figured that out pretty early in the book, too.
Cozy said, and I think someone said there was a prehistoric type of series already. Isn't that incredible?
Well, I know that, like, I think it was back in the 70s. My mom was real fascinated with this series by Jean Auel called Clan of the Cave Bear. I don't know if any of you remember that. And it was about historic people, but it wasn't cozy. It was just like a fiction thing, but it got really popular. And then I think for a while, you know, prehistoric literature was trendy, the same way that, you know, Harry Potter made witches trendy for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's interesting. Oh, that's my cat.
Somebody asked about your writing process.
So it's not, I mean, I know people who have such smooth and regular, you know, traditions and rituals. And I have a friend who lights a candle before she writes and like offers herself up to the muses and things, which I so admire. But mine is awesome. Mine is kind of haphazard, sometimes based on inspiration. So, you know, some nights I make myself write because I say, you need to write at least this many words. But then I feel like they're not that inspired. But my favorite time to write is when I have a really good idea and I think, okay, I need to write through this scene because I have a good idea. And, you know, you get into that flow, which is my favorite thing, because then my fingers are just like, and it just comes flowing out. So that's my best writing moment, is when I get writing flow. And sometimes I can write a lot during that period, you know, like I take advantage of it because it's like, hey, it's flowing, just keep going. So I could write, you know, more than one chapter even in that time. But other times I am just doing the piecemeal, you know, like if I have the basic stepping stones of my plot and I know I have to get from this stone to that one, but I have to do all this work in the middle to say, where did they go? What did they do? What connections did they make? And sometimes that's kind of boring even to me. So I just have to plug away and do that middle stuff. But then the reward is I can get to that next exciting scene, you know, because not every part of the book is exciting. I teach creative writing, and I was just telling my students plot and pacing. And we were watching a video of, who was it? I think it was David Baldacci. And we also watched one by Neil Gaiman. And they were talking about how you want to give your reader these like unexpected or really exciting moments, but you can't do that constantly because even the reader will get exhausted, not to mention your character. So you have to kind of do the highs and lows, but as you work toward those highs, you can still try to make it interesting or like plant a little clue so that the reader is still in a little bit of suspense. Leaving an unanswered question. I know for me as a reader, if something starts, let's say with a missing person, that's pretty much all the suspense I need for the whole book. Because even if people are just having dinner and dialoguing, the whole time I'm like, but where is this missing girl? Finish your dinner and go find the missing girl. So, I try to keep those little elements of suspense in there. I don't know.
I pulled this one up. I skipped over a couple and pulled this one up because it kind of goes along with that same question. Somebody asked, how do you plot your mysteries? Do you plot them out all beforehand, or do you figure it out as you go?
Well, here's the thing. I do have to plot them for my publisher, and I do have to send them a full outline months before I send them the book. And I just did that again for Death in Castle Dark. But then when I start writing, my creative self might go its own way. So I often deviate significantly from the outline and just write what I feel like writing in that moment. So, and I know that there are writers who really strictly outline, and it's very regimented, and they have a very tightly plotted book, which I admire. In fact, I went to see a writer once. I don't remember who it was. And he wrote 70, 75-page outlines.
Ooh.
Yeah. Like
it's like half the book itself.
I know, like just enormous. And like every plot point was in the outline. And I thought, even if I could write an outline like that, I don't think I would follow it, because when I write, I tend not to consult the outline, because then it's sort of like doing homework. Like, okay, I said this would happen, and let me type that in.
Yeah.
So I start with the basic idea, like, well, in this chapter, so-and-so meets so-and-so. But then I just kind of let that flow out of my head. I like it to feel like a real meeting. So, I just pretend I'm there, and what do I see? What do I encounter? What does this person look like? What little quirks and eccentricities do they have? And then I just capture that all down. And then later I'll see, oh, okay, actually that character was supposed to be this, but I like it better the way I have it. So I work with myself and against myself, but I mostly follow my creative inclinations.
I like to call you a sagging pantser. Like,
yeah.
You're a pantser, but they're just kind of sagging. You're not fully like, flying by the seat of your pants, but they're falling down. Sagging pantser, if you will. Yeah.
Well, and there are a lot of really big time, like best-selling writers are the pantser types, and they have said, like, that's what makes the writing a joy for me.
Yeah,
I'm going on an adventure. I don't know what's going to happen beyond page 1. And, the fun of it is finding out as I write it. And, it is fun. That is the fun thing. Like, the reward is, oh my gosh, I just discovered. I mean, I've had characters way back in the Madeline Mann mysteries, which are only on Kindle, who were going to be super minor characters. And then I would just start writing them, and they would say something funny, and then they would say something else funny. And I would think, oh, I actually really like this character. And then I would give them way more dialogue. And then they suddenly had a way more important role in the novel, because I just thought, why would I want to leave this character out of this scene? And I have had agents say, like, certain characters jump off the page. And that's what he did for me. It was the main character's brother, Fritz. Fritz just became a favorite of mine, and so he was very prominent in all 3 books.
And that's what I was saying earlier. I think that flows better when people just kind of let the book take it where they will. And I hear authors say, well, I didn't think my main character would do that. I really feel like it flows better. And a lot of times I think it flows better because I find it more realistic in some sort. And I don't know why. It's just in my own head maybe. But
right.
I think that those are probably off the cuff like that, or probably, I don't know, maybe it's an emotional thing or something. But I just think that they usually are, I don't know, more fun.
Well, and I think a lot of writers must sound kind of insane to people, because if people say, well, why did you have the character do that? And the writer will say, well, they told me to, but the reality is, I don't hear voices, but I do think about dialogue a lot. And I think like, oh, this is what she could say to him, after he insults her. Like, this would be a really good comeback. And, it's just sort of floating around in my head, which is why probably I can't forget about those characters whose series have ended, because I think, oh, this would be a really good dialogue between these two characters. I've got to find a way to get that in there. So
yeah. You made me think of a question. So like when you said, oh, sometimes I write, the best time I write is when an idea pops in my head and I just flow with it or go with it. Do you have like napkins and just stuff sitting around that you just, as soon as you come up with an idea, you have like little Post-its everywhere or anything like that?
Sometimes, usually lots of pads and, journals and stuff. I mean, there are a lot of half written in journals lying all over my house, going way back, because I started trying to write in my 20s. And, but yeah, and I also find that the best ideas come when you are relaxed. So I've had a lot of ideas while I was on vacation. I'm also inspired by other good books. So I'll be reading a book and then say, oh, this just makes me want to write, and make my own great story, because you kind of don't want that story to end. So you decide to make your own, quirky character. But yeah, or I've had really good ideas in the shower while I'm relaxing. They don't come when you're tense. So, if you're stressed out about writer's block, you're just going to perpetuate that problem. So you have to let it go, in the same way that when you read something and say, this is the worst piece of writing ever, you have to put it in the drawer and just leave it alone for a while. Maybe for a year if you need to. But then usually when I did that and I would take out the writing, unless it was my first very immature writing, which was quite bad. But eventually I got to a point where I'd put it away and take it out and say, it's actually pretty good. It's not that bad. But you have to play that game with yourself, because I don't know what it is about writing, but you do require a lot of like validation, because there are days you feel super confident, like I'm a good writer. And then other days where you say, this is bad. This is the worst. And so, but I think every writer goes through that. So you just have to kind of, take yourself through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cozy said, I like a good balance of the character's personal life and mystery. I don't like when most of the book is just mystery and investigating. I'm with you. I really like a lot of the people that don't like cozy mysteries. It's funny because what they don't like is what I love. They're like, why did I want to know that she, walked down the post office and saw Miss Mabel and that Mabel told, and I'm like, oh my God, I love that. Like,
Oh, I like you. I am very fascinated by the characters and just what they say to each other, but also what they're like. Like their kooky personalities. So I definitely like that, and I think it's important to let your character have a love interest, because that love interest is often a very driving force in the character's life, especially if they're young and unattached. So why not let that become a part of your plot? So
somebody said, it sounds like you're a mood reader, just like people are mood writers, just like people are mood readers. You're a mood writer.
Yeah, I am a moody person, but yeah, and I am a romantic. I do love a good mystery as well. P.D. James, who I had the amazing opportunity to meet twice in my life, she always said that the reason we love mysteries is because mysteries present the world with a kind of order where justice can be restored. And I agree with that. Like we love the mystery because we know that whatever bad force or evil thing is at work, it will be addressed in the end, and the good guys will win. And so I love that part of the mystery, but I also love the cozy families and the I have a kind of Disney, my writing group makes fun of me because they all write pretty dark stuff. And I'm always there with my happy endings and my, like, we're in love. And also my friend is in love and everyone is in love. And, I said, well, that's what I like. So, but it is true. Somehow I managed to match up everybody in the book. So in Blue Lake, by the end, everyone has a significant other. And if someone doesn't, I'm like, we need to get you a significant other, buddy. So let's look around. Let's see who's in the town that would match well with you.
Yeah, it was interesting because it's interesting people's perceptions of books, because when we were talking about the Dark and Stormy murder, there were people that thought maybe Camilla's love interest at one point was not a fairly good guy in the first book. They were like trying to and I was like, I thought from the very beginning he has a crush on Camilla. Why is nobody seeing this? Like, not readers. I don't mean that towards other readers. I mean just like Camilla. Or I was like, well, he
was supposed to be pretty ambiguous because I wanted to have a fair number of suspects. But when you look back, everything he did was pretty much just so he could be near her.
Well, I still didn't get anywhere close to figuring out the killer until much later. But I just was like, oh, I didn't get this suspicion on him as I did a lot of other people.
Right.
A lot of other people. Oh, I was like, I just thought he was very into Camilla. So I always ask this question. I always ask these next two questions. One, if you were murdered, let's knock on wood that we're not murdered. But if you were murdered,
I would prefer not to be.
Touche. Who would you want to solve your crime, though? Just any detective.
Wow, I would probably want it to be a female detective, simply because I really admire the mysteries that in books and on TV, movies, whatever, that have a really strong woman protagonist and a strong woman detective. I've tried to write a couple books actually with a female, like a female police officer, but I'm not like super well versed in, police protocol. So I feel like I would not do justice to the Chicago police or wherever I said it. But gosh, I'll have to think about that. I know that Jane Casey's detective that I'm reading right now, whose name is Maeve Carrington, would be a great one because she's very determined, but she also has this compassion for the victim. In fact, she comments all the time that she's sometimes criticized by her colleagues for caring about the victim, even if the victim wasn't, totally a great person. But she thinks, but they need an advocate. They need someone to care for them and to get justice for them. And she feels that it's really her calling. And that's why she loves working on the murder squad. So maybe Maeve Carrington. I really like her.
Yeah. And, I think there's a big difference between being not such a great person and needing to be murdered. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
There's a big jump there. Like,
right.
There's a lot of people that aren't great. I don't want to see them. You know what I mean?
Right. And we can't blame the victim for the fact that they were killed.
Yeah. Yeah. And my other question, I love this question, but it seems like nobody thinks about it. I'm like, y'all need to be thinking about this.
I think it's frozen again.
Office. Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
It's back.
Okay.
I had a little blip.
Oh. If Hallmark calls you tomorrow and says, hey, we want to make the Hungarian tea house into a cozy, or any of your series, is there anybody you would have in mind to play any of your main characters?
Oh, wow.
You kind of need to know this, Julia, because Hallmark is making everything into cozy mysteries now, or cozy mysteries into books.
I will super answer the phone if they call. But I would love to see any of them televised. That's I mean, I know some writers say, no, never touch it. I know Sue Grafton did. She was like, never televise my stuff. But I think it would be fun to see them televised. I have thought about casting before, but it's kind of hard, actually, when you have your own picture of your character. I mean, obviously, for Lila Drake in Undercover Dish, it would have to be an actress with long blonde hair and kind of a sweet demeanor. And I'm sure there are endless young ladies who would be great in that role. Jay Parker, he has dark hair and blue eyes, and I tend to lean toward male protagonists with blue eyes, and it's not because I necessarily ever knew someone with amazing blue eyes, but I read a book in which the male protagonist had blue eyes, and somehow she wrote it in such a way that I thought, oh, blue eyes are so compelling. So then I started using blue eyes. Although Eric Wolf has green eyes, and his are lovely too. But for Jay Parker, I sort of pictured, I can't remember his name, but he played Superman.
Clark Kent?
I mean, he was in the movie. He was in the movie Superman.
Is he? It's not like the original, not like Christopher Reeve.
No, the one that came out like in 2015 or something. But I can't remember the actor's name. But he has blue eyes and dark hair, and he's
Chris Evans. No, I don't know. I don't know his name. Somebody on here can tell us. I'm sure it'll pop up.
Yeah, he was also in The Witcher on TV, which I didn't watch, but my sons watched it, and they said he was in it. And Henry Cavill, that's his name.
Oh, okay.
The actor Henry Cavill. So I sort of see him as Jay Parker. But yeah, Eric Wolf, I'm not sure, because there aren't a lot of actors who are true blonde. You know what I mean? They tend to have brown hair or dark hair. And I can't think of that many who have like white blonde hair the way that Eric does. So he'd be a little harder. I'd have to look at some Norwegian actors. And Hannah, Mariska Hargitay, who's on she's on the Law and Order. Is that what she's on?
Oh, yeah.
She used to be on ER, and she's half Hungarian. And, she's Mariska. I have Hanishka. So I thought, oh, it'd be so great if Mariska Hargitay read the audio book. But that was not to be. But she, like a young Mariska Hargitay, would be a great Hannah. But Mariska's probably my age now, so. Yeah, so it's kind of fun to think about. The young protagonist in Death in Castle Dark has long black hair. And so I can't even think of someone who has long, straight black hair, but I'm sure there are lots of options for that one too. But I did that because of the sort of gothic link, of the dark-haired beauty.
Gotcha. How old approximately is the main character in that?
They tend to always be 27. I'm not sure why that's the magic number, but I guess it's because they're old enough to be pretty mature, but they're still young enough to, to want to find their true love and to be sort of adventurous when they solve a mystery. So, yeah, she's 27.
Kay said Dean Cain.
Dean Cain he's got a handsome look. He did play Superman on the TV series, but he has brown eyes, so maybe he would be one of my other.
Who's the guy? I think his first name is Eddie.
Dean Cain too is kind of getting up there in years. I don't know if he can play the young protagonist, but
I don't know how old he is. But who's the guy married to Leanne Rimes? He's an actor too. Eddie somebody. He's got real dark hair.
Cibrian, yeah, he's another handsome one.
But I don't know if he's got light eyes or not. I know he's got real dark hair, and he's attractive.
I think he might have brown eyes.
I don't remember.
Not that I've spent time thinking about all these handsome actors.
I love it. I mean, I always joke. I'm like, you need to be ready when they come calling.
Absolutely. Well, that would be, I mean, I can't tell you how exciting that would be to say, oh, Hallmark wants my mystery.
Absolutely, right? Kristen Ritter has long black hair. I can't think of who that is. I know I would know them, but off just the name, I can't think of who that is.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I know Kristen Kroik, and she had long dark hair. But yeah, I might need to start watching more like young TV, because I think I watch stuff with older casts, and I need to start checking out who the young people are.
That's usually the response. People are like, the problem is I don't know any of the young actors. That's usually what people say, is they're like, I don't know any of, the people. And I'm like, oh, but I think about it and I'm like, when I go into the grocery store and I look at a cover of People, I don't know anybody on it. I'm like, who were these people and people?
Well, and when I ask my students, because let's say 5 years ago, everyone was watching Netflix. But now if I say, oh, what are you watching on Netflix lately? And they look at me like, Netflix. And I say, well, what's that show you were talking about? And they say, it's on YouTube. And so they watch stuff on YouTube, they watch stuff on TikTok. And so I feel totally disconnected, because I say, I don't watch anything on YouTube. Like, that's a whole different world, and I'm not that familiar with it. But yeah, YouTube has become this subterranean universe of all sorts of shows and characters. And, as my as my students say, influencers on social media. So
yeah, no, for sure. Kristen Ritter was in Jessica Jones. I think that was a Netflix.
Oh, and she was also in Breaking Bad, right?
Oh,
she would actually be great as the heroine of Death in Castle Dark.
Okay, now I do know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
if it's the same person, I do.
Yeah. That's the one that is written under Veronica Bond, for anyone who came late. Hi, I'm Veronica Bond.
Yes, and it's coming out in August, right?
Yeah, I think it might be August 3rd. I think that's
August
the date.
3rd. I'm really excited about it. I mean, seriously, a dinner murder mystery thing is so up my alley. I'm so excited about this.
It is fun, and I'd really like to live in the castle. In fact, I drew up maps, like actual floor plans of the 3 floors of the castle, and they're putting them in the book. So it's going to have maps.
Oh, that's cool.
And, secret passages. It's very fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's it sounds, and the setting sounds incredible too. And what state is it going to be in? Or
it's pretty much everything I write, as I'm sure you've all noticed, is in Illinois.
Illinois, yeah.
This is because I am lazy, and in order to set it somewhere else, I would have to do a fair amount of research. And frankly, even then, like if I wanted to set something in New York, even if I research New York, it's not the same as living there for being authentic, with a New York voice and a New York setting. So I always feel like I'm safer just staying in the Midwest, because then I can authentically create a Midwestern character. So I know some authors are great at, having a different setting in every book, but I feel safer in the prairie land.
Is this in a fictional?
Yeah, it's in a town called Wood Glen, Illinois.
Which sounds like a real place.
Well, there is a Glenwood. I just kind of switched it around and called it Wood Glen, but I kind of like the sound of it.
Yeah, I like it. Excellent. That's really awesome. And then your Hungarian series has the 3rd book coming out this month, right?
Yes. I think end of May, like May 30th.
Yes. And it's, I'm so excited for it.
I am too.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Just that I knew that I wanted to do at least one of the books set at Christmas time. And so someone said I was a moody writer, and I totally am, because I love the Christmas mood I love the holiday mood, and I tried to capture that and contrast it with like the tension of the unsolved crime.
I love when cozies are holiday themed.
Yeah, I was hoping they would put a Christmas tree on the front, but they said, which is a good point, that if you do that, then people tend to connect it with only, 1 month of the year, and then they might not want to read it in July or August or whatever. So they made it very subtly Christmassy, like there's a little pine branch on the cover and things like that, but they didn't want to do a full-on Christmas tree.
And then, do you know if are you contracted to write more? Do you know what's going to happen with that series?
It'll probably depend how well received
No.
this third one is. Yeah, I mean, it's hard with a series because numbers tend to dwindle as you go down, because a lot of people will read the first one and then say, oh, well, I don't really need to read the others or whatever. So
exactly why you need to read the others.
Well, if you can maintain those numbers, then they tend to extend you. But if those numbers tend to dwindle, then they say, well, maybe try something else. So, yeah, I hope, but we'll also see how Death in Castle Dark does. And, Undercover Dish, I'm just going to take control of now because I finally got permission to do it.
That's exciting. That's exciting. And then the Writer's Apprentice officially is until you can do anything with getting your publication back.
Right. I mean, I assume that if like somehow like a celebrity read it and put it on Twitter or something, and it suddenly got a zillion readers, then they would probably extend it. But otherwise, I think not.
No, that's actually a brilliant marketing campaign right there. I'm just saying.
Right. That, or I would have to like go out in the world and, save someone from a horrible death and then be like, by the way, I'm a writer. Buy my books.
Also a plan. I don't know how solid it is, but it's a plan. Seems like there might be some easier ways to get it done, but
No, I think that's the only one. I'll have to jump on some railroad tracks and save someone.
Oh my goodness. Maybe hire an actor to like choke on something or something. An undercover dish that you bring to yeah. So I really, really appreciate you meeting with me. Tell me, you have the Hungarians coming out May 30th.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Death on the Night of Lost Lizards. Oh, I can show you something too. Death on the Night of Lost Lizards is, Graham, are you in there? No, he's not. I was going to have my son bring me something. It's based on, every one of the Hungarian pieces is based on some sort of little piece of porcelain, Hungarian porcelain. The Lost Lizards are based on a teacup that I thought was terrific. And I actually found one on a porcelain sellout site because they're so expensive. I can't really buy them, but this one was like half price. So the lizards are the handle. It's called a teacup with a twin lizard handle, and it was based on a Chinese design, but it was a Hungarian artist that designed it. And so when you hold the handle, you're actually holding the bodies of two snakes, and then at the top are their two little heads. So I can show you the teacup. I have to grab it.
That is really cool.
Hi, everyone. Hang on. Oh, Graham, could you hand me the teacup that has the twin lizards on it? All right, my son's getting it. Oh, here's another interesting I'll tell you. When I wrote the Blue Lake Mysteries, starting with Dark and Stormy, I created this character called Lena London, and the people lived in Blue Lake. And about a year after the book came out, my younger son started dating someone at college, and he said, I'm going to go to the movies with this girl today. And I said, well, what's her name? And he said, Lena. And I was like, wow, that's so ironic because I have Lena London. And then it turned out that his Lena lived in Blue Island.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, so you're dating a Lena who lives in Blue Island, and I created Lena who lives in Blue Lake. No, not
Yeah.
that one. It's yellow and blue. It's right there. And it's got lizards on the handle.
And
so anyway, art became life. Here it is.
yeah.
So this is the teacup that the lost lizards are
That's the
based
other
on.
one.
Oh, here it is. This is the one that it's based on. And you can see the handle. Wait, here we go. You can see how the handle is. Can you see it? Wait.
There.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
There we go. Oh,
You can
perfect.
see that the handle is two little snakes.
Oh, that's so cool.
And at the top, they are lizards. So those initially I called it Death on the Night of Twin Lizards, because Hannah gets this as a birthday present. She has a December birthday. But then the editor said, well, all the other books have alliteration, Budapest Butterfly and Wandering Wolf. So I changed it to Lost Lizards. But so Hannah gets this tea set at the beginning of the novel and thinks that she should have like a little fun tea party with all of her friends. And so the book starts with their tea party, and they're all supposed to share like a distinctive memory when something magical happened to them. And that's how it starts. There's sort of a magical tone because of the snowfall, and it feels kind of like a fairy tale to Hannah. And so, yeah, that's the mood that's set at the beginning.
So I just made the connection. Isn't Camilla's last name Graham in the book?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, oh.
That was named after my son. I try to sneak my sons into the books as often as I can.
Well, apparently you didn't do a very good job of fooling them, because
I did not. And this started when they were very little. So in the Madeline Mann books, there are two little boys who are like 4 and 2, who are super cute. And my brother said, oh, those are clearly your sons. And so the older they got, the age of the boys would change, but it would basically be them in disguise. So.
That's so funny. So, and then the writer's apprentice, and then when can we expect the 4th Undercover Dish series? Because I do want to reread at least, maybe, I don't know if I need to read all of them, but I might read the 3rd one for sure. Reread the 3rd one.
Yeah, I can't blame the publisher with this one, because this is all on me now. So I'm going to ask the cover designer to start work in June. I'm going to try to finish the book in June and then start editing it at that point. So I'm hoping, maybe July.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'd like to get it done over the summer when I'm not teaching. So.
Yeah, so really soon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's imminent.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Well, I gotta tell you, I would love for you to come back as Veronica Bond if you want to come back in like the beginning of August or even the week after, or whenever you would like to, around when the new Death in Castle Dark, right?
Should I wear a false mustache when I'm Veronica Bond?
I would love that. You have anything dressed up. If you want to come in full costume, I would prefer that. Yes.
Sure. Okay.
That is awesome. Well, I've enjoyed talking to you so much, and I'm so excited about the new 3rd book coming out in the Hungarian tea.
Thank you.
And I think everybody that's read Undercover Dish is going to be super excited that there's another one coming out. Really, really excited.
I still have to kind of post around about that. I haven't really told anyone yet. So, you heard it here.
Yay!
You heard it here on this webcast.
That's awesome. And Jessica said, yes, please come back. Seriously, come back. And
I absolutely will. And thank you to everyone who visited today.
Yes,
Thanks for reading.
It was so much fun. Thanks, guys. And thank you, Julia. It was so much fun.
Have a great weekend.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.